The night the world ended for Clara Hayes, the sky above rural Juneau, Alaska, burned with ice and fire. The aurora shimmered overhead, green-silver alive, as if the heavens themselves were watching. Below it, snow fell thick and fast, burying every sound. Every sign. Clara ran. Her breath came in sharp bursts, white against the dark. Her boots slipped on the frozen ground, her palms raw and bleeding where she'd caught herself on the ice. Behind her, the old farmhouse stood like a skeleton, broken windows. Smoke curling from the chimney, her family's voices echoing through the wind. "Don't come back, Clara!" Her father had shouted. "You're not one of us anymore." The words cut deeper than the cold ever could. She didn't look back. The snow was endless. The road gone. The world merciless. She stumbled toward the forest, guided only by instinct, by that same strange pull that had always made her different. She'd tried to hide it for years, the flashes of strength, the way her senses sharpened under the full moon. But her family had seen it last night. They'd seen the monster. She fell to her knees, gasping, her tears freezing on her cheeks. The air was sharp enough to bleed. Somewhere in the distance, wolves howled. For a moment she thought it was the wind. Until she heard the second howl, deeper, closer, deliberate. Her heartbeat faltered. She pushed herself up and stumbled forward, deeper into the trees. The snow muffled her footsteps, the silence heavy, suffocating. She didn't know where she was going, only that she couldn't stop. Then, through the blur of snow, she saw movement. A shadow, tall, broad-shouldered, human in shape, but not in stillness. She froze. The figure stepped closer. He moved with slow, deliberate control, his breath fogging in the cold. His eyes, impossibly bright, Wolf-gray, locked on hers. "Don't run," he said, his voice low, rough, steady. She staggered back. "Who are you?" "The one who found you before they did." "Before who?" He didn't answer. He reached out a hand instead, his fingers bare despite the cold. "You're freezing." She hesitated, breath shaking. "I don't trust you." "Good," he said. "You shouldn't." She stared at him, snow clinging to her hair, her body trembling with exhaustion. "What do you want from me?" His gaze softened, though his voice didn't. "To keep you alive. The others won't stop until you're dead." "What others?" "The ones who sent your family after you." Clara's pulse stuttered. "You're lying. Am I?" He stepped closer and she saw it then, the faint shimmer of something wild beneath his skin. The way the air seemed to shift around him. The smell of smoke and rain and blood. "Who are you?" She whispered. He looked at her, eyes glowing faintly silver in the stormlight. "Name's Darius Wolf, Alpha of the Northern Pack." The word hung between them. Alpha, heavy and dangerous. Clara shook her head. "I don't believe in your kind." He smiled faintly. "You will." By the time they reached his cabin, her body had gone numb. She didn't remember collapsing. Only the feel of his arms lifting her, the steady rhythm of his heartbeat against her ear. When she woke, she was wrapped in blankets by a fire so bright it almost hurt to look at. She blinked, disoriented. The cabin was built from dark timber, sturdy but old. Animal pelts hung along the walls. The smell of smoke and pine filled the air. Darius sat nearby, silent, watching her. His eyes caught the firelight, sharp and unyielding. "You should have died out there," he said quietly. "But you didn't." Clara swallowed hard. "Why do you care?" He leaned forward, resting his forearms on his knees. "Because they used you as bait." Her stomach dropped. "What?" "Your family," he said. "The hunters. They were working with them. They wanted to lure me out. The Alpha who refused their deal." She stared at him, her mind spinning. "You're saying my father, my brothers." He nodded. "Sold you for a promise of safety. But humans who bargain with wolves rarely live long enough to collect." She shook her head violently. "No, you're lying. I wish I were." The fire crackled between them. Clara felt her chest tighten, the air growing thinner. "They hated me," she whispered. "But they wouldn't." "They did." He looked at her, not cruelly, not pitying, but like someone who had seen too much truth to offer comfort. "You're not the first one they've thrown away. You're just the one who survived it." Tears stung her eyes. "Why are you telling me this?" Because you deserve to know who your real enemies are. Her voice trembled. And what do you want in return? He didn't look away. Revenge. Clara's breath hitched. I can help you, he said softly. I can teach you what you are, and make them regret ever thinking you were weak. She shook her head, voice cracking. What I am. Darius leaned closer, his eyes catching the firelight again. You think you're human, Clara, but the blood in your veins says otherwise. No. You felt it, didn't you? His tone was almost gentle now. That night. The anger. The strength that shouldn't be possible. Her pulse quickened. That wasn't me. Yes, he said, voice a low growl now. It was. Clara pressed her hands to her chest, her heart hammering. If I believe you. What happens to me now? He stood slowly, his shadow stretching across the firelight. Then I teach you to stop being afraid of what you are. And when you're ready, we make them pay. The promise hung in the air. Heavy and alive, outside the wind rose, howling through the trees. Not wild this time, but answering, and deep in the woods beyond, something ancient stirred, as if it had heard the Alpha's vow and marked it in blood. Clara stared into the fire long after Darius had left the room. The flames danced like living things, flickering gold and white, each crackle whispering a truth she wasn't ready to face. She wasn't human. Her family had betrayed her, and a monster had promised her vengeance for the first time in her life. She didn't feel like running. The sun rose over Juneau like a reluctant apology, pale and cold behind a thin veil of cloud. Frost clung to every branch, and the forest around Darius Wolf's cabin glistened like glass. Clara sat on the porch steps, wrapped in one of his wool coats, staring at the line where the trees met the horizon. She hadn't spoken since the night before. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw her father's face, the way he'd looked at her when he'd called her it. Instead of daughter, the betrayal still burned in her throat. But beneath it was something else. Something older, wilder, restless. Her hands wouldn't stop trembling. Not from the cold. From what she was starting to remember, Darius stepped outside, his boots crunching on the snow. He handed her a mug of coffee, steam rising from the dark surface. You didn't sleep, he said. I didn't try. He leaned against the railing beside her. The morning light turned the silver in his eyes almost human. Dreams? Nightmares, she said. But I'm not sure they were mine. He studied her quietly for a moment, then said, That's how it starts. She looked at him. What starts? The awakening. Clara frowned. You make it sound like a disease. It's not a disease, he said. It's a truth your blood's been trying to tell you since you were born. She laughed bitterly. My blood? You think I'm one of you? Darius met her gaze, unflinching. I don't think. I know. Clara turned away, clutching the mug tight enough that the heat bit her palms. I can't be. I've never changed? He finished for her. Not yet. You were raised among humans. They taught you to suppress the instincts, to ignore the pull. But it's still in you. You just never let it out. She stared into the woods, where the frost still glittered on the branches. And what happens when I do? He hesitated, then said quietly, You stop being who you were, and start becoming what you were meant to be. Later, she followed him into the clearing beyond the cabin. The snow there had been trampled down into a circle of packed earth. Darius stopped in the center, the wind tugging at his coat. This is where you'll learn, he said. Learn what? To listen. He closed his eyes, inhaled deeply, and for a moment he looked less like a man and more like something elemental. Something the earth itself had made. Clara folded her arms. To the trees? He smiled faintly. To yourself. The wind shifted. A scent filled the air, pine, smoke, iron, something that made her heart trip over itself. Smell that? He asked it. She nodded slowly. Rain. No, he said. Fear. Her brow furrowed. Whose? Darius's eyes flicked to hers. Yours. Before she could answer, he moved, fast, sudden, silent. He was behind her in a heartbeat, his voice low beside her ear. You're too easy to catch. She spun, heart hammering, but he was already gone. His voice came from behind her again. Close your eyes. I'm not. Do it. She exhaled shakily and obeyed. Now listen, he said. Forget what you see. Feel the world instead. Hear it breathe. At first she heard nothing but her own pulse. Then slowly the world opened up. The rustle of feathers miles away, the crack of ice on a riverbank, the faint heartbeat of the man circling her in the snow. Her eyes flew open. Doria stood a few feet away, watching her with something like approval. There it is. What just happened? She whispered. You stopped pretending to be human. Her pulse quickened. Don't say that. It's not an insult, he said. It's a release. I don't want to be like you. You already are. They returned to the cabin as night began to fall. The world turned blue and still, the air heavy with the promise of snow. Clara's body ached from exhaustion, but her mind burned with questions she couldn't silence. How did you know what I was? She asked as he lit the fire. He didn't look up. Because I knew your mother. The room went still. Clara's breath caught. My mother died when I was born. That's what they told you. She stood, her heart pounding. You're lying. He finally met her eyes, and the truth in them made her knees go weak. She wasn't human either, Clara. She was one of us. The strongest of her generation, until your father betrayed her. Clara's vision blurred. No, he sold her to the hunters when she tried to leave him. She was carrying you. The floor seemed to fall away beneath her. I'm saying your bloodline is sacred and cursed in equal measure, Doria said softly. Your mother's death bought your father power. He thought he'd hidden you well enough that no one would ever know. She sank to the floor, trembling. Why are you telling me this? Because the people who killed her are still out there. Clara looked up slowly, tears streaking her cheeks. And you want me to help you kill them? He shook his head. No, I want to help you remember how. The storm rolled in again before midnight. Snow whipped against the cabin windows, the wind moaning through the trees. Clara sat by the fire, the old photo she'd found in Darius's drawer shaking in her hands, her mother, wild-eyed, beautiful, standing beside a much younger Darius, his arm around her shoulders. You loved her, Clara said when he came to stand behind her. He didn't answer. You did, she said, voice breaking. You loved her, and now you're trying to use me to finish what she started. He stepped closer, his voice rough. You're wrong. I'm trying to save what's left of her. And that's you. She turned, anger cutting through her grief. I don't need saving. No, he said. You need to choose. Choose what? Whether you're her daughter or your father's. The storm thundered outside. Inside, silence burned hotter than the fire. Clara stared at him, her pulse wild. And if I choose her? His eyes softened. Then I'll burn the world for you. The storm lasted for 3 days. By the time it passed, the valley around Juneau was unrecognizable. Trees torn from the ground, rivers frozen mid-current. The sky low and gray as ash dot inside the cabin. Clara hadn't spoken. She barely ate, barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw her mother, the face from that photo Darius had kept hidden. The one that looked too much like her own. Her mother had lived. Her mother had loved a werewolf. And her father had killed her for it. The truth didn't just change her. It rewired her. She sat now by the dying fire, her gaze fixed on the flames. They moved the way her thoughts did, restless. Unpredictable, alive. Darius sat across from her, sharpening a blade, the scrape of metal rhythmic in the silence. Say something, he murmured finally. Clara didn't look up. You lied to me. He set the knife down. I told you the truth. You told me part of it, she said. You left out that you loved her. He exhaled, his voice low. Love isn't the word for what I felt for her. What I feel for you isn't the same. Her head snapped up. Then what is it? He held her gaze, his eyes flickering silver in the firelight. A promise. Of what? To make sure no one ever hurts you again. Her jaw clenched. Even if I'm the one doing the hurting? Especially then. By morning, she was gone. Darius found her tracks in the snow, heading toward the ridge, toward the farmhouse. She'd fled weeks before. He cursed under his breath and followed. The cold was brutal, but he didn't feel it. His senses locked on her trail, on her scent, wild, sharp, laced with the faint metallic tang of fury. He'd seen this before in others like her. The pull of vengeance, the hunger for answers that turned to blood. He'd trained himself to live without it. But Clara... She was her mother's daughter. Clara reached the farmhouse at dusk. The windows were boarded now, the doors chained, but the smell of old blood still clung to the wood. She pushed through the half-frozen door, her breath visible in the dark. Inside, everything was just as she'd left it. Overturned chairs, broken glass. Her mother's locket still lying on the floor where it had fallen that night. She picked it up. Her hand trembled. "You shouldn't be here." She spun. Her father stood in the doorway, older than she remembered, his face carved by guilt and cold. His voice shook, but not from fear. "Clara, you're alive." Her eyes burned. "You sound disappointed." "I thought He stopped himself. "The hunters said they'd make it quick." She laughed, a sound too sharp to be human. "You sold your daughter for mercy?" "You don't understand." "I understand perfectly." Her pulse quickened. The air around her shifted, heavy, electric. The same feeling she'd had that night in the snow. The one she'd buried. Her father's eyes widened. "God help me. You really are one of them." "No," she said, stepping closer, her voice low. "I'm better." Before he could move, she grabbed him by the collar and threw him against the wall. The strength in her arms startled her. His head hit the wood with a dull thud. "Tell me where they are," she hissed. "The hunters. The ones you gave me to." He groaned, coughing blood. "You think killing them will bring her back?" "I think it'll bring me back." Darius arrived moments later. He didn't need to see the house to know what had happened. He could smell it. Fear, rage, blood. He burst through the door and found Clara standing over her father. Trembling, tears freezing on her face. "Clara." She turned. Eyes wild, not brown now, but silver. "He deserves it." "Maybe he does," Darius said carefully, stepping closer. "But that's not what your mother would have wanted." "She's dead!" Clara screamed. "He made sure of it." Darius's voice was steady, but his hands were shaking. "If you kill him, you'll finish what they started. You'll become the monster they told you were." "I already am." "Then let me carry that for you," he said softly. "Let me be the monster instead." Her grip on her father's throat tightened, and then broke. She fell back, collapsing to her knees, sobbing. Darius caught her before she hit the ground. "I can't do this," she whispered. "Yes, you can." "I feel it inside me, Darius. The fire, the hate. It's eating me alive." He held her tighter. "That's because you're trying to fight it. You can't destroy what you are. You can only learn to use it." They buried her father behind the house the next morning. The ground was frozen, the earth hard as stone. Darius dug most of the grave himself. Clara watched, silent, her eyes empty. When it was done, she said quietly, "He told me something before he died." Darius stopped. "What?" "That my mother wasn't just part of the pack. She was the heir to it. The true alpha." Darius froze, his breath visible in the cold. "She died before she could claim the title," Clara continued. "But he said the blood still remembers. He said that's why the council wants me." He looked at her, realization dawning, and something darker with it. "They don't want you dead, Clara. They want you to lead them." She shook her head. "I won't. You might not have a choice." Her gaze hardened. "Then I'll burn every last one of them before I kneel." Darius met her eyes. For the first time since they'd met, he didn't see the girl from the snow. He saw her mother, reborn, vengeful, unstoppable. "You're going to start a war," he said quietly. She looked back toward the ruined farmhouse, her expression unreadable. "No," she said. "I'm going to finish one." That night, the aurora returned, brighter than before, streaking the sky in green and violet fire. Clara stood outside, the wind tangling her hair, the moonlight painting her skin silver. Darius came to stand beside her. "When this starts, there's no going back." She didn't look at him. "There's nothing to go back to." He nodded once. "Then I'm with you." Clara finally turned, her eyes meeting his. "Why?" His answer was quiet but sure. "Because your mother once made me swear I'd protect the one thing she loved most. And because I'm tired of watching you bleed for other people's sins." She smiled faintly. "You said you'd burn the world for me. I will. The wind rose, swirling the snow around them. Then she whispered, let's start with theirs. The war began quietly, a whisper that spread through the frozen forests of Alaska. Like smoke before the fire. By the time the council realized what was happening, it was already too late. Hunters were disappearing. Outposts burned. Wolves once loyal to the council's command began to break rank, following a new scent. A new name, the one spoken beneath the breath of every frightened creature in the north. Clara. The daughter of the betrayed. Alpha, the girl who had died in the snow and risen as flame. It started with vengeance. But it didn't stay that way. Each night Darius led her deeper into the wild, teaching her how to control what pulsed beneath her skin. Her senses sharpened, her strength grew. She learned how to command the call, to reach through the cold with her mind and summon wolves from miles away. They came without hesitation, eyes burning, drawn to her like the tide to the moon. By the third week, she didn't tremble when she changed. By the fifth, she no longer feared the blood that followed. She was no longer running from the monster inside her. She was wearing it, and Darius, the alpha who had promised her vengeance, watched her transformation with awe and unease in equal measure. One night, as the snow fell soft and endless, they camped near the edge of a ravine that overlooked the frozen bay. The aurora shimmered faintly above them, green bleeding into violet. Darius sat beside the fire, sharpening his blade, though he hadn't needed to for hours. His hands moved out of habit now, a rhythm to keep from saying what haunted him. You're quiet, Clara said, sitting across from him. So are you. I'm thinking. About what? She looked into the flames. About how much of me is still mine. Darius met her eyes. All of it. You don't know that. I do, he said, softer now. Because I see her when you fight, your mother. But I also see you when you stop. You're not her shadow, Clara. You're her legacy. She smiled faintly, but her voice was distant. You sound like someone who still believes in redemption. I believe in you. Her heart twisted. She looked away, the heat of the fire biting at her cheeks. Then believe this too. When it's over, when they're all gone, there won't be anything left of me to save. Darius reached across the flames, his hand brushing hers. Then I'll find whatever's left and love that instead. For the first time in days, she let herself breathe. By dawn, they were on the move again. The plan was simple. Storm the council's stronghold hidden in the glacier caves north of Eagle River. Take their leader, Elder Voss, alive. Make him answer for every life he'd taken, her mother's, her bloodlines, her own stolen years. But vengeance, Clara was learning, had a way of rewriting itself mid-breath. They reached the entrance by nightfall. Wolves flanked them, silent, loyal, eyes glinting like glass. The air was sharp with cold and anticipation. Darius looked at her. This is your fight, Clara. I can't make this choice for you. Her breath fogged in the air. It's not a choice anymore. It always is, he said. Revenge or peace. One will kill you. The other will change you. She smiled, small and sad. Maybe they're the same thing. Before he could answer, she stepped into the cave. The air inside was colder than death. Light flickered from torches mounted along the ice walls, each one casting long, trembling shadows. At the far end of the chamber, a circle of figures stood waiting. 5 of them, cloaked in white fur, their eyes pale and hard. Elder Voss stepped forward. He was tall, his beard silver, his presence like gravity. So, he said, the daughter lives. Clara's voice was steady. You murdered my mother. I preserved order. You call betrayal order? I call it survival, he said. She wanted to destroy the pact, to set our kind loose in a world not built for us. You carry her madness, maybe I carry her courage. Voss smiled coldly. And what will you do with it, child? Kill me? Take the throne she abandoned? I don't want your throne. Then what do you want? Clara's eyes flared silver. For you to feel what she felt when you burned her alive. The room shifted. The ice trembled. Darius moved behind her, silent, ready. Voss's tone darkened. You think your fire makes you a god. You think you can rise above what you are. But you're still bound to us. You'll always be the Wolf we created. Clara stepped closer. The temperature dropped. The torches flickered. No, she whispered. I'm the fire you tried to bury. And then she let it loose. The flames didn't burn red. They burned silver. The ice cracked. The ceiling screamed. The council scattered, blinded by light that seemed to pulse with her heartbeat. Voss fell to his knees, his robes catching fire that didn't melt but devoured. His scream echoed through the cavern, swallowed by the roar of something ancient waking in her blood. When it ended, Clara stood in the ashes of what had once been the council's power. Her eyes dimmed. Her skin was pale, trembling. The wolves were gone, fled or freed. She couldn't tell. Darius found her kneeling where Voss had fallen, her hands shaking, her breath ragged. "It's done," he said softly. She looked up at him, eyes hollow. "Then why doesn't it feel like victory?" "Because vengeance isn't peace." She shook her head. "I thought if I killed him, the fire would stop." He knelt beside her. "It never stops. It changes shape." Her voice cracked. "Then what's left of me, Darius? What am I now?" He reached out, pressing her trembling hand against his chest. "You're what's left after the fire. And that's enough." Her tears fell, hissing as they hit the scorched ground. "I can't go back," she whispered. "You don't have to," he said. "You just have to choose what kind of world you'll build from the ashes." They walked out of the glacier together, hand in hand. The aurora was gone, the sky wide and endless above them. The wind had calmed. Behind them, the ice cracked once, a long, echoing sound, and then fell silent forever. At the edge of the cliff, Clara stopped. The cold bit at her skin, but she didn't shiver. Darius turned to her. "You ended it." She looked at him, eyes soft now, silver fading to gray. "No, I just began something new." He smiled faintly. "Then what happens now?" Her voice was a whisper, carried by the wind. "Now the wolves run free." Dawn came slow to the ruins of the north. For the first time in decades, the mountains around Eagle River were silent, no horns. No howls of command, no council decrees echoing from the peaks. Just the whisper of thawing ice, and the breath of a world that didn't know what came next. Clara stood barefoot at the edge of the frozen ridge, the wind tugging at her hair. The sky above her was pale gold, soft and empty. The fire within her had quieted at last, not gone but sleeping. A heartbeat under her skin. Darius watched her from a few steps away, hands in his coat pockets, eyes tired but alive. The last few nights had aged him, not in body, but in the gravity of his silence. "They'll come looking for you," he said finally. Clara didn't turn. "Let them. They won't find what they're looking for. You killed their leaders. I killed the ones who deserved it." Darius's voice softened. "And what about the ones who followed out of fear? The ones who never had a choice?" Clara's gaze drifted toward the horizon. "Then maybe it's time I give them one." By noon, they'd reached the old pass that cut through the mountains, the path the pack had once used to migrate during the winters. Wolves waited there now, dozens of them, scattered among the rocks and trees. When Clara stepped into the clearing, they fell silent. Heads lowered, tails brushed the ground. Not submission, reverence. She swallowed hard. "I didn't come here to lead you," she said. Her voice carried, strong and clear. "I came here to free you. The council is gone. Their laws died with them. From now on, no Wolf will kneel to another." The pack stirred, uneasy. She felt their confusion ripple through her, the ancient instinct for hierarchy clashing with the strange, new pulse of choice. Darius stepped beside her, his voice steady. "You heard her. The world you feared is gone. She didn't just burn your masters, she burned the chains." A single Wolf, black, massive, scarred, stepped forward, head low. His eyes gleamed gold. "What are we without a leader?" he growled. Clara met his gaze. "Alive." He hesitated, then bowed. Not to her, but to the truth in her words. One by one, the others followed. That night, the first full moon since the council's fall rose over the valley. Its light washed the snow silver, glinting off the river below. Clara stood by the fire, her shadow long against the trees. She could feel it calling, the old pull of the moon, the familiar ache to run, to let go, to become something wild and untamed. But this time she resisted the command. She looked at Darius. "It's quieter now." He nodded. "Because it's yours, the moon?" she asked. "No," he said. "The silence." The choice. She smiled faintly. I thought you didn't believe in redemption. He shrugged, a trace of warmth in his expression. Then you taught me how. The wolves began to move beyond the trees, their shapes slipping like smoke through the moonlight. Clara stepped closer to the fire, holding out her hand. The flames leaned toward her, recognizing their maker. What will you do now? Darius asked. She watched the fire dance. Find the humans who still hunt us. Teach them what my father forgot, that we were never the monsters. They were. He nodded. And after that? Clara looked up at the sky. Maybe I'll find a place where the fire doesn't have to burn for something. Where it can just be. Darius smiled, small and tired. If you find it, save me a place. You'd hate it, she teased softly. Too quiet. Too peaceful. I'd learn. She turned to him, her eyes reflecting both the fire and the moon. You already have. Before dawn, she stood alone at the river's edge, the same place where her mother's ashes had scattered all those years ago. She knelt, touching the cold water. Mother, she whispered. You were right. The fire wasn't meant to destroy. It was meant to cleanse. The wind stirred, soft, almost warm. For a moment she thought she heard a voice in it. Then let it heal you. Child. Clara closed her eyes. When she opened them again, Darius stood behind her. His coat was dusted with frost, his hair caught by the wind. It's time, he said. She nodded. Then let's go where no one remembers our names. They turned together toward the ridge. The first light of dawn touched their faces, gold and gentle behind them. The wolves began to howl, not in mourning, but in unity. The sound rose and rolled through the valley, carrying with it the birth of a new kind of pack, one without masters, one that would never kneel again. As they walked into the rising sun, the air shimmered faintly with heat, not from the fire she carried. The air shimmered faintly with heat, not from the fire she carried, but from life returning to the frozen land. Clara reached for Darius's hand. He took it without hesitation. The fire that had once devoured everything now lived quietly between them. A pulse, a promise, a new beginning. And for the first time, the daughter of betrayal didn't burn for vengeance, she burned for peace.